Dear students, welcome to this session on advertising and its role in marketing strategy. So, before we study the role of advertising, what we need to do is we need to understand what exactly marketing strategy is. So, before we go ahead, we need to understand what exactly marketing strategy is. So, if we look at the literature, how different authors, researchers, key textbook like for example Stanton and Futrell, for example Philip Kotler's, how have they defined marketing strategy? We need to understand that. So before we go ahead, we will understand what exactly marketing strategy is and then what is the role of advertising in the marketing strategy, because advertising is one tool of marketing, or I should say integrated marketing communication. So it is one of the tools and it is employed to achieve certain objectives. So as we go along, we will understand all these things. So the role of advertising in marketing mix. So before we begin, let me ask you a simple question. Why do companies spend millions or billions? Before we begin, let us look at the role of advertising in marketing strategy. So first we need to understand what is advertising strategic contribution to the business success. So the most important thing that you need to understand in terms of marketing strategies, which I'm sure already many of you are aware of, is that marketing strategy can be said of as STP, that is your segmentation, target marketing, positioning, and implementing this STP strategy with the help of the 4Ps. And obviously, STP, as I have said, it stands for segmentation, targeting, positioning, and the 4Ps stand for place, product, price, and promotion. So we have to look at how these things are aligned and what is the role of specific role of advertising in this. So if you look at the marketing and promotional process model, as you can see on the slide itself, it clearly says that you start with competitive analysis and then you start with the targeting the marketing also. So that is, you have to target the space. So you have market targeting as well as the target market. These are two similar terms but slightly different terms. So I'll come to that in a short while. So the first thing is you have to identify the market. So which market do you want to operate in? Like for example, if we go back in time, there used to be only the traditional coffee, filtered coffee that we had. So we consumer would buy the beans, he would roast the beans, and then he would have a cup of coffee. But over a period of time, this filter coffee, some of the marketers, they thought that why only filter coffee? Let us come with something else. And what was that something else? They said, fine, let's have something else, and that something else became instant coffee, because the process of the filter coffee, the way you would make coffee, it took a lot of time. Although they have their loyal clientele. Whereas in the case of instant coffee, you have another set of clientele who does not have the time and who prefers the taste of instant coffee. Generally, instant coffee, most of the people tend to take it with milk or with cream, especially in a country like India. But with filter coffee, it is not taken with, it is sometimes some people do not even take it with sugar. They just take it plain black. And by the way, that's a very good thing as far as your liver is concerned. So, I mean, if you have 1 cup of black coffee in the morning, this is not a medical recommendation, but I can clearly say that a lot of people have benefited with drinking black coffee in the morning. So anyway, we went off tangent. That's not the point. Let's come back. So what I was saying was, the way marketers visualize, the way you segment the market is basically again a part of the strategy. So this is one example. Let me take another example. First, if you look at salt, how was salt sold in India? It was basically rock salt, dime a dozen, very, very cheap. Then came in Tata. They said we can segment the market further based on some benefit that we are offering to the consumer. And what was the benefit? They came up with a salt called as Tata iodine salt. And basically it had iodine in it and they called it as Tata iodized salt. So what does iodized salt do for you? It has a special health benefit. People in the country, especially in the hilly areas, if you go to a hilly area, one of the interesting things that you will encounter is that most of the locals, or even in the Terai region, so my forefathers, they come from the Terai region, and so whenever I visit my paternal or my grandfather's house, what I find is that we will get a cup of tea, and in that cup of tea, there would be some amount of salt in it. So, why do people take salt in tea and other things? It's a very simple phenomenon. Mostly in hilly areas, the hilly areas were iodine deficient, and majority of the people there did not get the required amount of iodine in their diets. So they developed a disease which was called as a goiter. So many times you can see people, in their throat, there is a swelling, which is now obviously very rare these days because everybody uses iodized salt. But lack of iodine led to a disease called as goiter, and this goiter disease was very dreaded. So Tata came up with this concept that we will have iodine in our salt, and they segmented the market on the basis of the benefit. So there was this rock salt, which was there for people who were price conscious, who did not need iodine, and then there were people who needed iodine. So it became iodized salt. Similarly, so the market for a long period of time was divided into the salt market was basically iodized salt, and there was the rock salt. Then some brilliant marketing guy, he came up with something else. He said, why not segment the market further? So how could they segment the market further? They realized that we need to have a salt. Like for example, if you go to Lakshadweep, if you go to Andaman Nicobar, what you will find is if you stay in any hotel or in any room, you will find that most of the grills or the iron railings or the mosquito net, they're all rusted unless and until they are of 304 grade stainless steel. They're all rusted. Why? Because there's too much of humidity in these places, Cherrapunji and many other places. There's too much of humidity, too much of rain, too much of humidity, and because of this excessive water content in the air or moisture in the air, most of the things corrode. Now, one of the disadvantages of this was that your regular salt would also become lumpy and gooey. So it was not free flowing. For example, in breakfast, many people have eggs, and many of the people have fried eggs. So what do? They have this fried egg, so they will sprinkle some salt on it, they will sprinkle some black pepper on it, and they will have the egg like that only. But what happened in humid seasons, especially in those places where they had humidity nearly round the year, it was very difficult because the salt would become lumpy and it would become gooey, and you were not able to sprinkle it. So companies like Captain Cook, Catch, they thought that let's have a salt which is free flowing throughout the year. So they came up with, so they segmented the market further. So earlier it was rock salt because it was very cheap, or it was the original product. Then we had, for a special benefit, iodized salt. Tata came in with iodized salt. Then Captain Cook and Catch, they came up with free flowing salt. That is, whether it is humid or not doesn't make any difference. You can enjoy sprinkling salt throughout the year. So that is what segmenting the market is all about. Then in the last few years, probably 10-15 years, what I found is that the market has been further segmented. So there was a company which I don't know how many of you can recall. It was called the company's name was Dandi, or the brand's name was Dandi. Now obviously we all know about Dandi, where it was the place from where it's a place in Gujarat. Gujarat is known for its salt mines, salt lakes, and also the salt which is being generated by evaporating seawater. So Gujarat is very famous for producing salt, and Dandi was a place from where Gandhi ji started his march. So Dandi march is a very famous thing. So Gujarat, Dandi, and salt. So all these things. So the brand thought that we will take advantage of this, and they said we will further segment the market. So the brand segmented the market, and they said we have a triple refined salt. Now obviously, what was this triple refined? Nobody could understand what this triple refined was all about. So ultimately, the moral of the story is that if you don't do your segmentation properly, if it does not have a key benefit, by just highlighting on some special feature which the consumer is not really aware of, he is not likely to buy the brand. But the idea was that they further segmented the market in this way. Then a few years back, probably another 10-15 years back, Tata was the pioneer when it came to the iodized salt, a health benefit. Similarly, they came up with another health benefit. Now they have this low sodium salt and in a green pack, whereas the traditional one is in red and orange pack, the newer one is in a green pack. And what was this? Low salt, low sodium content salt. The basic idea is that a lot of people in India, and especially as the country is growing and people are much more, I should say, have a sedentary lifestyle, a lot of adulteration and so on and forth. Most of the people you will find they're either diabetic, it's very common in India, and or they have blood pressure. So in order to target consumers who had blood pressure, so when you have blood pressure, the doctor always recommends that you should reduce your intake of salt. So what to do? So Tata came up with this novel solution. They said we have low sodium salt. So you can buy low sodium salt in green packs. So this was another way of segmenting the market, another health benefit, low sodium salt. So now what has happened, if you look at the salt market, you can find there are different ways of segmenting the market, and the market is segmented accordingly. Now, this next question that arises that, okay, fine, the marketers as a part of the marketing strategy have segmented these markets, and let's say there are 4 segments. You have the rock salt, the traditional segment, then you have the iodized salt, free flowing, and you have the low sodium. Now, as a part of the marketing strategy of the company has to decide which of these segments are they likely to target. Should they target 1? Should they target 2? Should they target 3? Should they target 4? A combination 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, or any permutation and combination, or they should target all the segments. That's the decision. So ultimately, everything depends on your marketing objectives, what you would want to do. Now, let's take the case of, I'll just give an example as we move along. If we take the example of the free flowing salt. Now, free flowing salt, the market is very, very small. So, if you look at the overall volume, India is such a big country, everybody consumes salt. But the number of people who are actually buying free flowing salt is a minuscule percentage. So, Tata doesn't make, so Tata doesn't sell, doesn't produce, and doesn't market free flowing salt. They've left it, so it's a kind of niche market. A niche market is basically a market which is small and attractive, but not for a big player. So Tata is a big player, so they have not ventured into the free flowing salt market or iodized market. Now, in recent times, with growing health awareness across the nation, as people become more educated, as the nation grows, health consciousness grows. So in recent times, many of the doctors have started recommending that instead of the regular salt, the white salt, you should take Himalayan salt, and Himalayan salt is better. So people have now started buying Himalayan salt, and there are a lot of companies which are selling Himalayan salt. Tata itself is selling Himalayan pink salt. So if you go to the supermarket, you can go to the showroom, or a mart, or even a departmental store, you will find the pink Himalayan salt being sold by different brands. So Tata is also selling Himalayan pink salt. So now the market is more segmented depending on the kind of benefit, right? So ultimately, whether you choose one, you choose two, or a combination, or you choose all, will basically, as we go along, we'll have a look at these in more detail. Now, so once you have developed, I should say, so you have done a segmentation, the next step is the target marketing, that is which of these do you want to target. And once you decided that, okay, fine, I am going to target 2 segments, segment 1 and segment 2, that is, I am going to target iodized salt, and I am going to target, let's say, Himalayan pink salt. So I will sell to these markets and I will not target the rest of the market. So the next step is the P part, STP, the P part is the positioning part. And the positioning parts also talks of how do you position your brand in the mind of the consumers. So ultimately, positioning is a very, very important concept. Positioning is like a mental ladder. For example, cars, automobiles, luxury cars. What is the position of Rolls Royce? Number one. What is the position of Rolex? People think of number one. What is the position of Emirates Airlines or Etihad Airlines? Number one. And generally, people tend to remember number one brands. People don't remember number two, three, or even four, five. They might remember number two or number three, but people will not remember number four or number five. So, positioning is all about occupying the right mind space in the eyes of the or the minds of the consumers. So, you have Pepsi Cola. What is the positioning? It's a cola which is targeted towards the youth. But Thumbs Up does not have the same positioning. Mountain Dew does not have the same positioning. Sprite does not have a same positioning. 7 Up does not have a same positioning because 7 Up and Sprite are not cola. Fanta is not a cola. So they have to target different markets. Maybe in terms of taste, there are many people who don't like cola. They prefer a Sprite or they prefer a Fanta. So companies decide on what to sell, especially in FMCG companies and especially products like cold drinks and where it's all about the share of the stomach, share of the mind. So the company which is manufacturing cola will also manufacture the uncola, which is basically your 7 Up or Sprite, and they'll also manufacture Fanta because they want to make sure that the consumer buys from them only. So they want to give consumer an entire product line of different options. So the consumer can buy whichever flavor he prefers, whichever taste he prefers. He does not want to buy a regular Coke, give him Diet Coke. That's the basic idea, right? So positioning is all about creating the right impression in the minds of the consumers. Sony television, premium, high quality. Samsung OLED, LG OLED, premium, high quality. TCL, a middle market. Motorola, middle market, higher middle market. Best refrigerators or best air conditioners, Mitsubishi Heavy Duty Electric. O General, Wide Westinghouse. The next lot, Samsung, LG, Panasonic, poorer, Lloyd, Voltas. So this is how you position in the minds of the consumer. So what you try to do is you try to occupy a place in the mind of the consumer which has not been occupied. So once you have decided on your position, you decide your pricing strategy. So we'll see all these things: your pricing, your distribution strategy, what should be your promotional strategy, and in promotion, what should be your advertising strategy. So as you can see, there are 4 P's of marketing: are the product decisions, the pricing decision, the placement decision, the channels that you want to choose, and then the promotional decision. And the promotional decision, you have all the tools of integrated marketing communication, starting with advertising and ending with personal selling. And ultimately, it would lead to some sort of sale for the brand. So as we go along, we will discuss these things in detail. So let's talk of the first part in terms of the marketing strategy. In order to understand marketing strategy, we need to understand the first, that is the targeting marketing process. Okay. So we have to look at markets with unfulfilled needs, then we have to segment them, and we have to select the market to target. So this is market targeting, right? So this is how the flow of the strategy takes place, and then we have to position with the help of the marketing strategy. So STP, segmentation, target marketing, positioning. So finding out how you are going to segment the market. So segmentation is an art. As I told you, coffee was merely a coffee. Then came instant coffee. So instant coffee also does not command too much premium over the normal coffee. Then came in companies like Starbucks. They said not only coffee, let's give them an experience. Let's give them a variety of coffees to choose from. Let them give them varieties of other drinks to choose from. And for a normal coffee, what we call as espresso, is, by the way, if you go to Italy or you go to any other, if you go to even a Starbucks or uh, barista or other international brands like coffee, tea, bean, and leaves and all those things. So what you will find is that, or Costas and all that, what you will find is that when you order espresso, they will bring some very small amount of coffee, very dark, with very viscous, which you would not like want to. I mean, probably person like me would not want to, who's actually a tea lover, would not want to drink. So, what is we use the word interchangeably. We call it espresso, but it is not actually espresso, where we have those big steam machines and we make the coffee. It's very popular, especially in North India, that steam machine. That coffee is basically cappuccino. So, if you go to, I mean, if you go to Starbucks, they offer variety of coffees. But the coffee that you drink, personally, the coffee that I drink from my, I mean, if I go to places that I normally visit and from the coffee which is made from that steam machine, or the coffee machine as you would call it, which has steam as a component, I love that coffee. There's no substitute. No, I mean, brands like Costas or Starbucks don't come near in terms of taste as far as that particular coffee is concerned. So for that coffee, I'll pay 30 rupees, 40 rupees a cup. But if I go to Starbucks, I end up paying a huge amount. So it is not about the coffee, it is about the experience. So if I go to that shop and I have a cup of coffee and I pay 30 rupees, I mean, I would not even get a place to sit and drink the coffee. Maybe I'll just have to stand outside and have a cup of coffee. There may be a table outside. So it's a very, there's no, I should say, experience involved. It's just merely coffee. The taste is there, but there's no experience. With Starbucks, it's not about the coffee. It's about the experience that they provide you, and they charge you a whopping amount of that. So when people go to Starbucks, they click some pics and they post it on their social media saying we had a coffee at Starbucks or things like that. A lot of people do it. Maybe not everybody does it, but a lot of people do that. Why? Because it's an experience. And they think it's an experience which is very good and they would want to share it. It raises their self-esteem probably, and they would want to share it on their social media. So Starbucks segmented the market: coffee, regular coffee made out of beans, roasted beans, and then you had or what we call as filter coffee, then you had instant coffee. Then Starbucks said the coffee experience, and they became Starbucks, and they started charging a huge amount of that. So that is what marketing strategy is all about: segmenting the market in ways which nobody can think of. Just imagine, in a country like India, wherever you go, people will offer you water free of cost. That's part of the Indian hospitality. But just imagine how difficult it would have been for Bisleri, especially in the 90s, where salaries were very low. Salaries were 2,000, 3,000, 1,500, 500. How difficult it would have been for a brand like Bisleri to sell something which was offered for free and for 10 rupees a bottle. That was a huge amount then. 10 rupees was a huge amount. Today it is nothing. Today the salary of somebody who was earning 2,000 is 2 lakh rupees. So from 2 lakh rupees you can spend 20, 30, 40 rupees for a bottle. It's no deal. But spending money for something which you could get for free is a very big deal. So how did Bisleri position itself in the minds of the consumers? That's something which you need to understand. As we go along, I'll explain that. And then Bisleri is not only Bisleri. So Bisleri became a mass market product over a period of time. Then some companies started realizing that there's water, and mineral water has replaced water now. So we need to move ahead. So they came up with the concept called as superior mineral water, coming directly from some spring in France or somewhere else. So you had brands like Perrier, the green bottles that you see in majority of the events. So they are a premium brand. So one bottle of premium is at least 10 times of what Bisleri would cost. Similarly, there is another brand called as Evian. It's again a French brand. That's also very costly. In India also, some people aped that, And you have a lot of mineral water brands now in India which are pretty expensive. So you get to go to a restaurant, you will get something called as Vedika. They charge you 100 rupees for that, saying that it comes from some natural spring in Himalaya. So that is a way of segmenting the market and differentiating yourself. And then on that basis, you try to position yourself in the mind of the consumers. So there is regular water, then there is mineral water, which is Bisleri, Aquafina, Kinley, Crystal, Liquid, Aqua, so many brands in the market. So that's merely water now. That's become generic, it's water. But if we move ahead up the ladder, what we find is there are brands which claim to be much superior. Either the water is sparklingly clear, coming from some spring, the spring has some magical minerals to give you the boost, or the bottle itself, the positioning has been created to create an aura of exclusivity. So how did Bisleri sell? That's an interesting story. So Bisleri basically was able to sell for one simple reason, that carrying a mineral water in the 90s, if you were coming out of the airport, if you are going into the airport or a railway station, you were thought to be someone who could afford a mineral water. So you were the exclusive rich guy. So many people wanted to cultivate this image. So they bought a mineral water, and wherever they went, they toted that mineral water around, just trying to create an aura of exclusivity about themselves. Because people were drinking tap water from the railway station. People would fill up their water bottles and thermos flasks, and they would be happy with that. So that's how Bisleri was able to create an aura of exclusivity for initial period of time. So Bisleri, their focus is always the market, mass market, and they have continued with that. So what is the process? As I said, the process starts with marketing strategy, starts with segmentation, deciding on how to segment the market. Once you have segmented the market, which of these markets to choose, which is called as targeting. And once you have chosen the target market, that could be 1, 2, 3, or a combination or some of those, you decide on what should be the positioning for each of these segments. And then this positioning this STP is implemented in the marketplace, or the strategy is implemented in the marketplace with the help of the four P's, which many people call as the marketing mix: placement, product, price, and promotion. And promotion is an omnibus term. It starts with all the integrated marketing communication elements and tools. So what is the segmentation, the process? Finding ways to group consumers according to their needs, finding ways to group customers' actions, usually the product offered available to the organization. There are many ways of segmentation, by the way. So what we will focus on now is to understand how this segmentation can actually help us in, I've given you so many examples. I gave the example of coffee, I gave the example of salt, I gave the example of water. Salt and water are commodities which people thought they are very, very difficult because they're very cheap, easily available, and nobody could even think of premium salt and premium mineral water. But just imagine what marketers have been able to achieve. That's a very, very big achievement, or a big feat in my opinion. Something which was being offered for free, which was available, dime a dozen, or 5 rupees for 5 kgs. That is being sold for premium. Just imagine. So how well they have positioned themselves in the minds of the consumers by saying that we offer this particular benefit, and that is why you need to buy this brand. So people are willing to buy a 1 liter mineral water bottle, a premium mineral water bottle, for 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 300 rupees. So that is what segmentation is all about. So let's look at how segmentation could be done. A company, if it is deciding to segment the market, how could it actually do? So one of the basic, or I should say one of the most common way of segmenting the market is in terms of geographic segmentation. For example, you are a clothing manufacturer. So you can easily segment the market on the basis of geography, and by geography the climate changes. So if you are manufacturing clothes, what you would manufacture for people in Kashmir would be very, very different as to compared to what you would be manufacturing for people in let's say Tamil Nadu or Kerala, where the climate is very, very moderate. They do not have winters. So that's just an example. Demographic segmentation is very, very important. A lot of companies actually tend to do that. They segment the market on the basis of age. Like, for example, diapers. They segmented the market on the basis of Pampers. Huggies, they're all segmented on a basis of age, sometimes on gender, sometimes on income. So, for example, your automobile and many other things, luxury products, they're all segmented on the basis of income. Some products are segmented on the basis of education. Now, that sounds interesting. What it could be that is on the basis of education. So, for example, you have companies, there was a time when IT companies were manufacturing computers specifically targeted for educational institutions. Occupation, what is your occupation? So, depending on your occupation, there could be companies which are, for example, I know certain companies which manufacture products which are tailored for hotels. So, they manufacture the blazers, they manufacture, you know, I mean, gowns, they manufacture bed sheets, they manufacture towels, and they manufacture so many things which are specifically targeted towards the hotel or people who are working in the hotel. Dress livery for them, targeting towards a particular occupation. A lot of people, a lot of companies tend to do that. Social class products which are based on class. So, one way of segmenting the market is on the basis of geography, state, region, country, climate. You have different products for different country. For example, Toyota, it started manufacturing cars which were, like for example, at one point of time, brands like Santro or small cars were not sold in Middle Eastern countries. Recently, things have changed because petrol prices have gone up in the last 10-15 years. But in the 70s, in the 80s, when petrol was discovered for the first time in the Middle East, or they became commercially, or they became very, very rich because of petrol. I mean, they had those big fuel guzzlers. And they had those V8 engines, V6 engines. Those were limousines. Big cars were the order of the day in countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and all these people. Nobody used to drive small cars. So, depending on this, companies segmented the market. Those cars you don't see in India. In India, Toyota Corolla looks like luxury. But if you go to UAE, Toyota Corolla is the cheapest car there. Toyota Corolla is the cheapest car there. They were being driven as taxis at one point of time by the expatriate populations which used to live there, Afghans and Pathans from the northwest frontier provinces of Pakistan. They were driving these private taxis, and most of those taxis used to be Corolla. That is not to say that being used as taxi is bad. What I personally feel is that any car which is being used as taxi is an excellent car, because taxi, these people, taxi service operators or service operators would never ever choose a car which is not reliable, which is not of top-notch quality, because they would have a lot of trouble, and those cars which are not easily repairable, they would never choose those cars. They will always choose cars which are top-notch quality, good service, reliable, and easily serviceable and repairable. So, Toyota is such an example. In UAE, if you go, you will find that most of the taxis are Camry, Toyota Camry. Now, Toyota Camry is a dream in India. It's a pretty expensive car, but in Dubai, that's a taxi. In Germany, Mercedes are taxi. In Europe, a lot of premium cars that we see in India are being, employed as taxis. So, anyway, moving on. After geographic and demographic, we have the next base, which we call as psychographic segmentation, and psychographic, then behavioral segmentation. Psychographic depends on your activities, interest, opinions, and values and lifestyles, attitude, personality traits. So, when people tend to identify that what kind of personality, like for example, there are many brands which focus on just the personality. As I was saying in one of my lectures earlier, every male would like to, there is not a single male that I know of. There could be a minority, I am not talking of those minorities, who does not want to look tough, macho. That is how we have been brought up. So, when we have this, we try to buy, when we think that we are tough and macho, and we want to convey this to the world, which everybody wants to. A lot of people go to the gym, pump weights, right? Wear tight t-shirts, show off their bodies. That's just one way of showing that you are very tough and macho. But at the same point of time, there are other ways to do it. So if you are tough and macho, you are driving probably a Thar. Thar makes a statement, and this is for people who are tough, macho, outdoorsy, outgoing. Similarly, in the international context, it could be a Land Cruiser, it could be a Humvee, or it could be a Hummer. Sorry, the Humvee is basically it's for the U.S. Army, manufactured by Hummer. So it's a variant of Hummer which is called as Humvee. So Hummer is a very very popular brand. Jeep, Wrangler, Jeep Cherokee, and Land Cruiser Prado, Mitsubishi Pajero. There's so many brands which are very very they're outdoorsy, tough and macho brands. Harley Davidson, Royal Enfield in India. What do they convey? They convey a certain personality. So this basis of segmenting the market, like for many companies, they manufacture motorcycles. Like Hero Honda manufactures motorcycles. Earlier, I should say. Now, obviously, the company has split up. There is Hero motorcycles and there is Honda motorcycle. So Hero Honda, their focus was only on one simple aspect: quality, reliability, and fuel efficiency. So they were targeting people on the basis of income, right? So their segmentation was on the basis of income. Whereas a Harley Davidson or a Royal Enfield, their segmentation is not on the basis of income. Their segmentation is on the basis of psychographic combined with demographic segmentations like age and sex. That they segment the market in terms of males. They segment the market in terms of age. Maybe Harley Davidson and obviously Harley Davidson has a different segmentation strategy when it comes to age. They target corporate executives who are doing pretty well. The income also comes in. So they are super rich, doing very well, probably in their 40s, 50s, even 60s. So that's a Harley Davidson, club also. But Royal Enfield in India targets the youth. So any college going student would want to have a Royal Enfield. Anybody who's 20, 25, 30, 31, 35, and if he wants to convey that he's very tough and macho, would want to have a Harley Davidson or Royal Enfield. So this is the way marketers use psychographic segmentation along with geographic, demographic, and behavioral segmentation. Then we have behavioral segmentation. We segment the market in terms of the behaviors. That is how people use the basis of usage, loyalties, occasion. So in certain industry, brand loyalty is very very important. In certain industry, occasions are very very important. So that is what I am trying to tell you, that usage, there are a lot of companies which actually use usage as a segmentation variable, occasion as a segmentation variable.